Hi everyone, welcome back to Friday Night Knits. My name is Becky. It is Saturday, May 21st, and this is my knitting podcast. Excuse me. It's Saturday afternoon. I've had a big Saturday already, which is so unusual. If I don't have to work, I'm usually pretty mellow on Saturdays, but got up this morning, went to the farmer's market, came home, did a second attempt at the podcast, and then my husband and I this afternoon went to a brodal party. Not a bridal party because it was one of my husband's high school friends and his partner getting married. They're going to Las Vegas to get married, so they had a wedding reception, Star Wars themed, this afternoon, and it was so much fun. And they called it a brodal party, B-R-O, doll party. Excuse me. It was a lot of fun. They had, when you walked in, you had to sign in with you did a hello, my name is, and made figured out your Star Wars name, which mine is unfortunate because it's the first 3 letters of your last name plus the first 2 letters of your name. So my last name is Boone, so it was B-O-O-B-E. So it was Boob-E. It was not my friends. So no one made inappropriate jokes to me. If it had been my friends, I would have been called Booby Tata's Bobe all day, but they were very well behaved. So I just got back from that, which is why you get me with makeup and my hair done, and I'm even wearing a dress, but I'm not going to show you all that because it's so Saturday afternoon. It's been a great week. I worked the early shift this week, so I'm home by 3 o'clock, which my husband usually doesn't get home until 5 or 6, so lots of free time to knit in the afternoons. That being said, there's not a huge amount of progress, but it's there. And yep, you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Becky Rae, BECKYRHAE. And if you are a returning viewer, thanks so much for coming back. If you're a new viewer, buckle up. Have fun. So let's jump right into knitting. Like I said, I have one FO, and that's this guy here, and he's really, by the pattern, he's 90% done. But I really hated the way his legs are written on this pattern. So here's my armadillo. And I love the body construction of this. Even his head and ears and stuff are pretty great. But he was written flat, sewn together, and I hate doing that. So when I used to do a lot of toys, I would take the flat patterns and convert them to in the round. And I just didn't do that with this one, and it really kind of makes me sad. So I will probably reknit him at a later date, but at this point he is perfect for a cat toy, which is what he's going to be. I'm going to take him with me tonight to my friend Richard's house, where we go every Saturday night, and I'm going to see if his cats are the least bit interested in him. If they are not, I will send him home with my friend Dennis, because Dennis likes all of the strange and peculiar things. So, armadillo. What is that? Oh no, that's the end of the pipe cleaner that I shoved up in there to make his tail do that. Okay, all better. So, this was knit with Knit Picks Wool of the Andes, which is worsted weight. And I believe I used a size 2 needle. I think I used my only carbon needles I have, so they are size US 2 carbons. So that's my FO. So let's talk about works in progress. I'm still working on socks, and socks. So the first pair in my Star Wars bag, this is the one from Lone Star Arts that I bought in San Antonio. And so here's my progress from last week. I think I slapped this on right after I recorded last week, or a couple of rows after I recorded last week. So I haven't made too much progress, but these are going to go with me tonight to knit. And this is the mustache yarn in the Droids colorway R2. And I was originally going to do the vanilla sock, striped sock pattern with that slip stitch on just the blues. I've changed my mind yet again. I'm just going to go with straight vanilla knitting because I think the stripes are too thin to worry about that. So just going to truck along. The toe is the seamless rounded toe for toe up, and I will put the Fish Lips Kiss heel in it. So the Fish Lips Kiss heel is the only part of it that's a paid pattern. And I am knitting this on Knit Picks size 1.5, the 2.25. The toes are Osterman Royal, which I figured out last week because I actually read the label is a, what did I say, 60% merino, 20% nylon, 10 cashmere, 10 angora, which, no, there's silk in there, so maybe silk and cashmere. Yeah, I don't think there's angora in it. If there's angora in it, I'd be having fits because I'm allergic to angora. I'm allergic to all rabbits. So, yeah, I will take it with me tonight to every Saturday night. My husband and I go hang out with our friends and we play Pathfinder, D&D style tabletop gaming, with minis and maps and paper, pen and paper. Of course, it's more technologically advanced. They have embraced iPads and stuff, so it's not as cool as when I was in high school with pencil and paper and all of that stuff. But yeah, we play every Saturday night. So I always take knitting. So I'll take my R2 socks tonight, and because I really need to get cranking on them, because her knit along, the Sock Wars, is a month long, and it started on Star Wars Day, which was May 4th. So there's those. And then my Stevens socks are actually not where they were last time. I think I'm maybe a 1/4 inch behind where I was the last time, but I had this funny thing going on at the side here, and I tried to drop stitches and pick them up and fix it, but it seemed even wonkier, so I just went ahead and tinked back to the heels and reknit it. And so, but they're getting along. I'm pretty sure I'll get crew length on them with this much yarn left over. Both balls are about like that, and if it ends up crew length, then I'm not going to use the contrasting for the cuff. But if it's, an inch or so shy of a crew length sock, I'll go ahead and throw the contrast color in there. And yeah, so those are the two projects that I really want to concentrate on the next couple of weeks. I said I wasn't going to cast on anything new, but I lied. So I could stand it no longer. The one skein, the Stellar Banshee blitzed base from Fullen Vines that I had kept taunting me, and it was like in my dreams kind of taunting me. So I cast on, and I'm keeping that in my Stephen West bag. This is from the Color Cravings Mystery Knit Along. A while back I got this and a notebook that I found the other day off of his Etsy shop when he used to have an Etsy shop. So it's just a really cute bag, and Stephen signed it, and he signed the notebook. And I just found the notebook the other day. I've never used it. Oh, that's just, I'm making a mess. There we go. There's his signature right there. So, and I just love this bag. I love a good drawstring bag. It's lined and everything, and I love houndstooth. It's kind of fun, and you know, it's always fun with Stephen's picture. But I'm actually keeping the yarn in my Yarn It with my mustache. Hello, hello. And what I am knitting is the Song of the Sea. It's a paid for pattern on Ravelry, and it's a cowl. It looks like waves when you look at it, but I'm not a beachy water person, so when I looked at it, I saw dragon scales. So here we go. I am knitting this on my Hiya Hiya Sharp interchangeables. I actually stole the tips out of my 3-color cashmere shawl knitting. So where's my camera? There it is. So this is just knitting up like a dream. I am loving this yarn. I am loving this yarn so much that I'm pretty sure this is the yarn that I'm going to make a very, very big effort to get a sweater's quantity of. Still don't know what color, because now that I'm doing this Stellar Banshee is just brilliant. And my favorite part of it are these little pops of the bright, bright yellow. Those teeny pops. I mean, the pink is great, but there are just nauseating bright yellow pops too. Little bitty drops. And so, oh no, this color is kind of awesome too. So, but I think Bull and Vine's going to be the yarn that I try to get a sweater's quantity of for my sweater that I will eventually knit. But don't hold your breath. So that's my other work in progress, and I'm not going to knit on it anymore right now because it's very much a potato chippy easy knit. So I want to concentrate on my socks. So it needs to. I've been hiding it from myself in my craft room so I don't grab it. I grab my R2 socks. And that's pretty much the knitting I've done this week. Thursday night we went to a baseball game. And I was at the baseball game, and I took my R2 socks and I was knitting on them at the game, and my daughter texted me and she was asking me how to do a cable cast on because she finished her Holding Hands and Feeding Ducks scarf, and she had decided to cast on a project for with the yarn that we bought at the Stitching Post that we showed you on the episode with her, Araucandia yarn or something. I don't remember what it was called, but it was great. It was a gray, cream, brown, looked tannish, painted-y kind of yarn. Very much her colors. So she is going to do, she decided on a scarf on Knitty. It's like a shawlette scarfy pattern. I don't remember the name of it, but it's got short rows in it and cast-ons in the middle of your work. So two things that she's never done. And she was asking me how to do these things, and I was trying to explain it to her while I was texting, and it was not making any sense, not even to me. Excuse me. Dry West Texas air. So it wasn't making any sense to me, so I knew it wasn't making sense to her. So I started Googling pictures of what it looks like when you're doing a cable cast on. She's found some videos and We texted a little more, and she goes, okay, I think I have it. I've watched a couple of videos. And then she texts me back a couple of minutes later, and it's like, okay, I don't have it. And I was like, all right, I will be home in about half an hour. I will look at the pattern. I will knit it up for you, and if nothing else, I'll video it. It would have been so much easier if she would have an iPhone so we could FaceTime. Or, you know, even she doesn't have a video to talk on her phone at all, and I could have used my husband's, because we're a split house. He has an Android. But she was like, raw. So I just ended up taking a video and emailing it to her, and she said it helped a lot. So she's going and blowing on big project number 2. Excuse me. The best part of it was the next day she sent me a picture that she had gotten past the part that we were talking about. And it was a picture, obviously, of her working on her break at work. She works at Starbucks. And when I first started knitting and got super into knitting and got on all the boards and everything, and I started on Flickr, and what was the name of that? I don't remember the name of the website now, and I give it to everybody. Anyway, on a forum, on Flickr, but I was always knitting barista. And because I worked at Starbucks as a barista, and I was always knitting on all of my breaks. Anytime I had to take the deposit for work, I would sit in the line at the bank waiting to turn in my deposit or drop off the deposit, and would knit in the car. So I called myself Knitting Barista, and she sent me the picture, and you can see very clearly in her lap is her work, but she's wearing her green Starbucks apron, and it made me stupid giddy. I'm like, yay, she's finally following in my footsteps. And because we're both very odd, my daughter and I mean, I'm very aware of how not normal for where I live I am. And I knew she was a lot like me, but here lately it's like scary how much she's like me, and I love it. And that is all of my works in progress knitting wise right now, and Sarah's. I in other things, a couple of my knitting related works in progress thing, I was poking around my craft room, and I found a couple of things. I found this project bag, which is filthy dirty, and I got it from the Simply Knitting magazines. I used to work at Barnes & Noble, so I was always grabbing up Simply Knitting magazines when they first came in, because the European knitting magazines come with gifts, which so cool. In fact, I think Eric was talking about that in his last podcast on Sticks Plus Twine. So the crazy thing is, in this bag, and it has to have been there forever, is this yarn that is like the braided type yarn, and it's this black sparkle yarn. I'm trying to get it close enough, or not close enough, with some, there we go, some black sparkle. It was and it's really different, but it is loaded with all of these gold beads, because I had every intention of doing a knit along that my first knitting group that we actually had a knitting guild here when I first started, and we were doing a pattern, and it was from a book, an interweave book that was about knitting and with beads, and we all picked this shawl. I think it is called the Night Sky shawl, maybe, but I loaded up the beads on this thing and then never did anything with it, and I have no idea how much yardage is on a cone of this stuff. It's got to be ridiculous. I should look it up or something. I don't know. And I completely forgot that it was in this bag. So I think I should get an award for crazy, languishing, never even started works in progress found in my knitting room. So also in my craft room, I found a stash of unfinished Blythe sweaters just to prove that I don't just do it with like human size stuff. But I have this almost finished Blythe sweater, and there's needles all over the place. This one I'm not even using to knit it with. I must have snagged the needles for something else. So it's knit with this Barocco yarn that is like, I think it's a silk stuff, but it's got these, it is the prettiest color, the neatest feeling, and all it needs is, I was going to do a garter, a couple of rows of garter and then bind off because it was going to be 3/4 length sleeves, and it's done. And I'm a schlub and haven't even finished that, and I picked that up from a box that had at least 3 more, not to mention like 2 or 3 blouse little tops that just need ends woven in and snapped. So I'm a slacker, even with itty bitty Blythe things. So speaking of Blythe, see my 3 ladies hanging out today? They are all dressed in various woolly goodness. Let's talk about Homer first. She thinks she's in Hollywood or something. She is wearing a little crochet dress from Wellermade, and I am a big supporter of all Blythe makers, even though it is stuff I could make myself, because I obviously don't want to finish things, so it's much easier to just buy it and be supportive. So here's Homer in this lovely Wellermade outfit. These ruffles kill me, and it's a variegated yarn, so it obviously, it kills me that it was, she timed it so perfect for those ruffles. Homer's dancing. Julie at Knitting for Dolls said she recognized Homer, that Homer was Blythe famous. Don't tell Homer she's Blythe famous, because I will have to sell a kidney to buy her stuff, because she'll think she deserves it. So there's Homer in Wellermade, and on the other side of my grandpa Homer this is Basil. She's a custom Blythe. Homer is, I don't think I've ever said this, Homer is a stock Goldie all-in-one. So this young lady here was a Safi Encore, and that's like all I know. This doll was one of my favorites that I stocked on Flickr all the time. Her previous owner, every time she posted a picture, I oohed and awed and was like, must have, must have, must have. Always liked it, everything about it. She's based on the art by Julie West. Let me show you some Julie West pictures there. There you go. So, and can you see even the red dot on her eye? It's really blown out, but the blue and the color and all those details. So that's Julie West's artwork. That picture is what this doll is based on. So, and the customizer even went so far as to put those tiny red dots in her green eye chips, the front facing ones. And when I first got Basil from Dawn, who was her original owner, she contacted me because she was getting out of the hobby and knew that I was obsessed with this doll, and just contacted me out of the blue one day and asked me if I'd be willing to buy her, and I was like, heck yeah. So she came to live with me. And when she did come live with me, she had the blue hair. Well, it was very faded out. It either needed to be re-dyed or something, but I have a really good friend named Angela that does reroots. And so instead of doing the blue, Angela rerooted Basil with this beautiful black alpaca. So, you know, if I ever get desperate for yarn and I actually do start spinning, I can just, if I ever get super desperate, I can steal her hair. I'd never do that, but I could. So she is wearing a dress by a lady named Liz, who her shop is called Woolly Rockers. And I have a lot of Woolly Rockers clothes, and I've bought several of her patterns and made the dresses and things myself. But like I said, I like to support makers, even if it is something I can do, just because I don't have to sew in ends that way. And next to Miss Basil this is Otis. She's another custom Blythe. She is a Tina custom, and she is gorgeous. I love her to pieces. See her eyes changing colors. She is wearing, I don't know what her base doll is. I'm so bad at that kind of information. But she's wearing the hat that I made. This is the Rose Red pattern by Usilda Teague. And I had made it for my cousin, and I did a swap one winter. Fallish maybe, I don't remember. But she didn't knit. She made homemade soaps and lotions. So I made her a hat, and she sent me a bunch of smelly good stuff. And as soon as I finished knitting it, I was like, have to cast on. I have to make this for Blythe. So I believe this was knit on zeros. And this yarn was I think it's called Marks and Caton, but Fame Trend, something along that lines is what the yarn was called. It's a European yarn, English yarn or something, I think, that I found at my local yarn store. Long, really pretty color changes. So yeah, so that's my Blythes today. The Dolly Fun. And that's pretty much any knitting. I've got a few things to show you in goodies, but I also want to talk about a couple of things I've seen on some knitting podcasts here lately that have really kind of given me a kick in the pants, and that's people are picking up books and reading again. And I used to read all the time, and I'm going to admit something right now that I feel like I should stand up and say, my name is Becky. It's been blah 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 years since I read a book. The last book I read, cover to cover, new book as it came out, was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I am so ashamed of that, but I'm also very proud of the fact that it was a Harry Potter book. But I cannot knit and read at the same time. And people that can, I'm so envious of you. And I know there's audiobooks, but the one time I've tried audiobooks, I either got so absorbed in the audiobook that I stopped knitting, or I got so into my knitting that I would start to listen again for a second and be like, whoa, what are they talking about? And I'd have to rewind, or, for you not cassette player people, back up to see what I was listening to, figure out where I was. So, yeah. So I'm going to start reading again. And I really have a great time to do it now because at my job, it's a soda fountain, soda jerkin, making all of that stuff, but we also serve lunch. So I'm busy through lunchtime when normal people eat. I'm not eating. So I eat lunch at 10 a.m. And it's usually a half-hour break. And so I really want to make a conscious effort to not be on my phone the entire time during my break. So I used to take my knitting to work with me, but it's really hard to eat and knit. Really hard. So, but I can read a book and eat. So that I think is what I'm going to do. And I have a couple of books picked out to start with, and I'm not sure which one of them I'm going to read first, but these are my two top picks right now. And they are, this one I picked up at Starbucks. My friend Risa is a great lady, and she loves books, and she reads all the time. And every now and then she goes through her books and purges, and she puts these great things on them. Take it, read it, pass it on. So she brought this book up to Starbucks and dropped it off, and the day she dropped this one off, I grabbed it because I knew this is one I wanted to read. And it is called Ascending Peculiarity, Edward Gorey on Edward Gorey. I believe from the little snippets I've read, it's pretty much just a collection of interviews. But I think this is just, I find it very funny that I picked this book up because I don't remember picking it up, but and I just recently got a bag with the Gasleys on it, so I'm pretty stoked about this book. And I had just read a bunch of stuff on him on Wikipedia, so it's kind of funny that I grabbed that and found it in my bookshelves. So the second book, and this one probably is going to be the one I read first, is Just Kids by Patti Smith. Oh man, what can I say about this book? I bought this book when I worked at Barnes & Noble, and I can't tell you why I bought it exactly, but I mean I'll be 45 next week, so I'm obviously a kid of the 80s, and Patti Smith has, wasn't too much of a punk rebel scene where I grew up, because I grew up in Texas. But what I know of her, I've always enjoyed. But here's where I'm a little strange in things. I never knew the connection between her and Robert Mapplethorpe. Her and Mapplethorpe. I had a big love for Mapplethorpe's photography but I didn't discover it until I was 20-ish, maybe not quite 20. It was after he died, so I was 20. It was after he passed away, and I was at a bookstore with my ex-husband and my brother-in-law, and they had one of his collection books there, and on the cover was his self-portrait with the skull walking stick, and him in the black turtleneck, and from the time that he was already sick with AIDS, and he didn't look super bad yet, super sick yet, but he was obviously thinner than he had been, and that picture just struck a chord, and I was flipping through the book and was ready to go up to the register and buy it, and my ex-husband was like, well, what is it? And he takes it from me. And now, as a reference, I have giant books of Norman Rockwell, so I guess my husband was used to my favorite artist being Norman Rockwell. So Mapplethorpe was a shock. And he talked me out of buying the book. He was pretty put off by a lot of the photographs in the book, but I man, loved it. So just the other day, I watched HBO's documentary about Robert Mapplethorpe, and if you haven't seen that, wow, it's beautiful. And it talked about him and Patti Smith going to art college together and meeting and falling in love, and they were a couple, and they lived together in a hotel, and they were cool. and I had never put them two together. And then when I found this book and looked at it, it's them on the cover. Why didn't I put that together? So this one will probably be the one I read first. I'm just dying to get into it, crack into it. So yeah, I'm gonna read, guys. Use my education. Use my brain. And it's funny because knitting helps really with keeping my hands young. If I go more than a few days without knitting, my hands hurt like crazy. So now I need to work out my brain like I work out my hands. And then today, I said I went to the farmer's market. I picked up this book. It was written by a local boy who is 9. Yeah, he's 9, probably almost 10. He's in the 4th grade. He was on our news the other day, and he was talking about these books. And he didn't just write it; he did all the artwork. So him and his mother and his father were there, and they were selling this little book. And this is his second book. He has his first book was called The Rain. So yeah, I had to buy this because it was only $5, and it's supporting a kid that's, man, doing more in the 4th grade than I ever thought of doing. So I grabbed that as well because I love a good children's book. I have a couple of I love children's books that are really cool. This is one of my favorites. It's called Varmints, and it doesn't have a lot of words in it. It just has these beautiful pictures. So I love books. I should read more. And take it back. As far as Harry Potter was the last book I cracked open and read cover to cover, but I have Game of Thrones on my iPad. But I didn't start. I didn't read the books first. I was late to that party, so when I started watching it on HBO, I bought the books and would read up to where I was, because I was more invested in the TV show because that's what I do first. And the same with The Walking Dead. But I don't really consider graphic novels reading books, because if that's the case, I've read a lot of books because I've read comics. But yeah. So paper books, love them. I love them. Let's see. Checking my notes. Because podcasters started this. Let's talk about some podcasts that I've been watching and loving. The 3 this week, it's pretty funny. I am way late to the party on one, and that's the Fat Squirrel Speaks. She's hilarious. Anyone that laughs like she does and has a section called Shenanigans, Shenanigans! I love shenanigans. I'm all for shenanigans. Is gonna win me over, and I am, like I said, I'm way late to that party, but I'm gonna watch. I like to watch her at night before I go to bed. And then the Knittorious podcast. Those girls. My husband's a teacher, so I love a good teacher, and they're just cute. I really love it. I'm very nervous to start watching now that I just drew blank on names. Bought the spinning wheel, and because my local friends are trying to draw me into the spinning thing. I have 2 of them that have spinning wheels, and they're like, "Look, Becky, we're spinning. Come watch." And I get so drawn in, and it looks really amazing, but I don't have room in my craft area for a spinning wheel because it's a disaster area, and I can't imagine throwing a spinning wheel in on this. And then the 3rd one is the Pin, Feather, and Pearls podcast with Candace. I adore a geeky person. I do, because I am extremely geeky. I think I said before, there are like 3 major themes in my craft room. There's knitting, like right here, yarn, knitting. There's Blythe dolls, and I don't know if you can see beyond that, and then there's Star Wars. So I'm all about geeky, crazy knitting. she cracked me up talking about Captain America and people with people talking about being Team Iron Man, because I didn't understand it either, how anybody could be Team Iron Man. Believe she referred to Bucky as I want to say she called him a cupcake, and it was hilarious. A sweet cupcake that needed to be protected or something. I don't remember, but I loved that, and I would have never thought that seeing The Winter Soldier, but after Civil War, I'm all about take care of Bucky. And I think she and I are both equally excited about X-Men. Ooh, I am so excited about X-Men. So excited. And it's my birthday movie. I think I said that last week. It's my birthday movie this year. I will, like I said earlier, I will be 45 next week. So, I am stoked about X-Men. So yeah, I love a good geeky. And on to goodies. I got a swap package in the mail this week, and it was so funny when it arrived, because I went to my mailbox, and it's a neighborhood box, you know, a shared box like a lot of people have. And let me see that. So when they open a mailbox from the back to load it up, the boxes are just boxes. There's no lip. But when you open it from the front side, where we open it from, there's a lip. You see that? No. Okay. So I couldn't get it out. But I could tell from the address that it was from my swap partner for the Grocery Girls mini swap. And so I couldn't get it out. So I just ripped the box open in the mailbox. And in it was some tea and some stitch markers and little balls of yarn. Here's some of the colors. Here's some of the colors. And then I'm going to show you these three separately, because I am amazed at how they are wound up. Look at these little perfect little... I don't know how she did that. Sarah in Houston, how did you do that? They're so cool. My best friend, one of my best friends, works for the post office. I can't wait to show her those pictures, because I'll see her tonight. And she'll laugh. She'll get a good laugh out of it. So I got that. And then the other thing I got in the mail is crinkly. Oh, sorry. These are the Lanai Yarns Harry Potter mix. And I had to get onto her website to figure out who was who, but like that super colorful one there is, that one is Luna. This one's House Colors, I think. You know, Dolores. There's a service, always, I think that's this one here. So it's Lily and Severus. Severus? Yes. That one, there's, I believe that's Harry Potter, and that's, no, this one, no, that one's Harry. This one's Hedwig. Anyway, it really doesn't matter to me, because I'm not going to have, they're not going to go in my blanket any particular way. There will be no rhyme or reason to my Cozy Memories blanket. Did you hear that? No rhyme or reason to my Cozy Memories blanket. Yep, I have decided I am going to make a blanket. But I'm still not going to cast on for a little while, because one of the things I want to do is get a bunch of yarn prepped for it before I start. And I'll just basically just wind it all into little balls. And I was going to put it in a pretty vase or pretty bowl so that I could see it and look at it and admire it, but then I decided I don't want to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go find a like largemouth vase that I cannot see through, but I can easily reach in and pull a couple out, and I'm going to put them all in there, and I'm just going to pull them out randomly to put into my blanket, because my brain will do weird things with it otherwise. It'll want to put them all together and or chronologically how I got them, because that's just the stupid stuff my brain comes up with and decides is important. So to avoid that, I'm just going to make it as random as possible. Yeah, so, and I've got quite a collection to start with. I think I'll go hit up Home Goods and find a cool vase to stick it in. So I think that is all I have for y'all today. So have a great day. Coraline and I, Angry Coraline. We're gonna go knit something. So, you know, grab your needles and yarn and pull loops through other loops and make something, guys. Have a good afternoon. Bye.